Welcome to the Prove It podcast, where we let go of proving to the world and start proving what's possible. I'm your host, Michaela, prosperity coach, purpose-driven entrepreneur, and woman of faith. This is for the ones who dare to prosper differently, who choose calling over conformity, purpose over pressure, and alignment with divine design over hustle culture. Through honest conversations and transformative stories, we'll explore what happens when you stop chasing approval and start becoming who you were always meant to be. Because your worth isn't up for debate, but how you live, that's where you prove it. Welcome back to the Prove It podcast. I'm so excited for our guest today. Her name is Jeana Núñez, and I'm so excited to have a conversation with her. She is a transformational coach. Jeana, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, I believe as women, we wear a lot of hats. We have the mom hat, we have the business hat, we have the chauffeur hat, all the hats, right? And a lot of times we get to the point where we get to like trying to do everything. We as women are natural nurturers. We want to do everything, but we're also really high achieving and think we can take on the world, which we can with God's help, right? And so what I like to do as a life and business transformation coach is to help women that are getting close to burnout or like that are already in that burnout phase, finding work-life harmony again, so that they can be able to have their highest values being met, but still be able to achieve those big dreams and not have to sacrifice everything to get it. I help work through the different puzzle pieces that are stopping them and help them get to that next level of harmony.
I love that so much. And I love that you focus on harmony, not balance. It's something that I've adopted recently. And so I would love for you to share that.
So the idea of balance just doesn't exist. I mean, it really doesn't. We think we can be here at all the things, but we really can't, because then we're only halfway in everything. When you're in work-life harmony, when you're doing work, you're in work mode. When you're doing mom, you're in mom mode. And you are able to kind of compartmentalize in a sense so that you're not trying to do everything. And so it's not like you're trying to cook the kitchen or cook the food while you're on a Zoom call while you're trying to help kids with homework, which is what I thought I used to have to do, right? And that was balance. I was doing everything in balance. But when I was able to look at my calendar, and I have my calendar color coded, which is super funny because I'm not known as an organized person or like super detailed, but I needed to see visually that I was in harmony, that the things that were most important to me, my highest values, were being met, and that there was that harmony. And so I have colors for my kids, I have colors for work, I have colors for date night, for networking, all of that. And then I can just see the harmony. And when I'm there, I'm there. And I'm present with what I'm being present to.
I could use that. I need to get more organized that way. And I love that you've color coded it and you can see visually what that harmony looks like. Mm-hmm. And then I love your focus on just, then I can be present in whatever moment that is. So as I was like preparing for this interview, I was going through some of your posts on Facebook, and there was one that just stood out to me so much. I really, really resonated with it because I share a love of music and the piano too. Do you know what story I'm going to bring up with the piano? Okay, so you went to a music store to get your daughter piano music, right? Mm-hmm. And then you saw this beautiful white baby grand or grand piano?
Baby grand.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And you sat down and played, and you talked about in that story how you didn't feel the need for perfectionism. You just sat down and played without like feeling that pressure to be perfect or to play it perfectly. And you were just present, right? Present in that moment and just letting your passion and joy for that art, just come through without the pressure and the worry. And then you contrasted that with, in the past, that was not the case, right? And you hid that talent because of the pressure to be perfect. And I noticed that's kind of a theme that you talk about, is that pressure to be perfect and that perfectionism. What did that journey look like for you? Because I relate to that so much. I play the piano. I have since a young age. And like you were talking about the sight reading and the pressure to sight read. And as I've become a mom, I have lost some of that ability, right? Because I am not practicing as intensely as I used to when I was younger. And so some of that ability has gone away. And with that comes that fear of, oh my goodness, like people are going to judge me because I can't do that as well as I used to, or just that perfectionism, right? So that really spoke to me. And I would love to hear your story behind that.
Okay, so I was Sterling Scholar in music, and for those of you that don't live in Utah, basically they take the top students of each category, and then they compete against other schools within their district or whatever. And so I was Sterling Scholar in music, and I was practicing 4.5 hours a day. I thought at one point I wanted to go in to be a like I was needing to get a music major, but I wanted to be a music therapist. And so I had this elaborate plan that I was going to get double major in music and elementary ed. I was going to teach while I was getting my master's in music, and everything was just going to go perfect because I'm a recovering perfectionist. And at that time, I still was very much in that perfectionism mode, right? And that was not how the plan went. It was actually quite the opposite. Right before college started, I canceled all of my music classes, like literally all of them, and realized I was too social to be in a practice room 8 hours a day. And that was not me. And so what happens when you cancel a bunch of classes last minute? Well, I'm very religious, and so I just filled it up with a bunch of institute classes, which was fine, and I loved it, except that everybody in my hometown knew I played. I was the accompanist for the choir. I was in the higher choir, and then I was accompanist for the middle choir. I played in seminary. Like, I couldn't get away from it, right? But I was creating a new identity in St. George, and I hid that piece of me because I didn't want to be the one that had to go and play the piano every week and make the mistakes because I was a perfectionist. 4.5 hours so that I could play perfect. And so that was a long journey. And I hid that talent for a long time, actually. I even went on a mission to Paraguay and nobody knew I played at all. Oh, I sang, and I was asked to sing, and that's where my talent was. Singing was able to come out more because I was able to share that talent more. But one day I was really frustrated with my companion, and I went and I just sat down and I just played because I love to just sit down and make up stuff, right? And my district leader heard me. He walked in because we had to go to a church to be able to get our meal once a week. And that was like our preparation day. I'm trying to think of it not in Spanish, our preparation day. And so all the elders were out playing soccer. And so nobody was there. It was just my companion doing her thing and me being frustrated with her and just sitting down on the piano because the piano used to be my outlet, like to be able to just piano and running were my thing. And so he asked me if I would do a musical number for Zone Conference, which I had done musical numbers for Zone Conference with other sisters and stuff. But I said, yeah, what do you want me to sing? And he said, no, I want you to play. I was like, what? I don't play. Well, the joke was on me because he heard me and he knew. And so then I had to prepare a piece to be able to play. And it took a lot of humility, like really. I would get up and practice in the morning before I would do anything. Luckily, we had a church nearby. And then I performed in front of the entire Zone Conference, which for those of you that are not LDS, you have like areas that you're together, and then you have a big, huge, like where everybody comes together and like does meetings, like all of the missionaries in the mission. And so now it was out that I played, and there was no hiding it. And I replaced another sister missionary that was there, and she was the word accompanist. And she was also teaching piano lessons to a few of the students. So what did I do? I replaced that. And I had to learn really quickly that good is better than perfect. And God really had to humble me. So God had to take me through a journey of being able to be okay with realizing that perfectionism is a lie and done is better than perfect. And I
Wow.
just now, as I continue, it no longer defines me. I let it
Wow.
just be like, you know what? It's okay. Perfection.
That is a really, really incredible story. And I think so many women can relate to that feeling and that like need to be perfect. I am curious if you felt in those moments like you had something to prove, whether it was before when you were stuck in the perfectionism or whether it was when you were going through the, having to be humbled and people finding out about this like hidden talent. And if being stuck in that, like, I have to, prove that I'm good enough or I have to prove that I'm perfect. And then that led to what you probably didn't want, which was like hiding these talents that God gave you, right? And hiding who he created you to be and something that he gave you in order to serve others. So walk me through what that was like.
Yes, definitely. Because when you get a title like, Sterling Scholar of Music, it comes with an expectation of like she can do this and she can do that. And like you were the expert of that, whatever in the school. And so I knew I was good. And I was such a perfectionist and wanted everything perfect because that's how I showed up. And so showing up any differently and feeling like I couldn't do that, I had to prove to myself that it was okay that I didn't show up perfectly and learned that lesson along the way. But it wasn't necessarily that anyone would have expected it from me. I expected it of myself. I had really, really, really high, unrealistic expectations of who I needed to be and what
Yeah.
I needed to prove. And really, it came down to not feeling enough if I wasn't that way and tying my achievements to somehow my value,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't the case. I know now that I am enough just being a daughter of God, and that makes me enough just doing that. But we all face that. Every single one of us face that I'm not enough phase. And it comes out in different ways. It comes out in us having to prove, or it comes out in us in perfectionism or control. But it's really allowing God, like letting go and letting God.
I love that you talk about how you were almost proving not even to others, but just to yourself that you
Mm-hmm.
were good enough, and that was through success or achievements, or perfectionism, like whatever that looked like. But yeah, it's not always, we don't always get stuck in these habits of like trying to prove our worth to God or to others, but even to just ourselves. And it's so beautiful when you can step out of that and step into that alignment with God and who he created you to be, and that you have value and worth just as you are without having to do anything. And so, what changes did you see in your life as you started living in alignment with that and, humbling yourself, coming back to who God had created you to be and embracing that?
It brings peace, like so much peace. Like me staying away from my talent for so long and hiding my talent for so long, I lost a lot of the talent that I had. Can I still sit down and play? Yeah, because I took years and years of piano. But if you handed me a piece of music, could I play it? Not a chance. I have the skills to be able to figure it out and learn it and figure out a piece, right? But I lost a lot of those skills and those gifts that God gave me because I chose to hide them. And so, like, what I've learned is I think I learned it even more as a mom when my kids weren't doing what I wanted them to do. They weren't showing up exactly how I had my picture perfect cookie cutter life to look like, right? And I listened to a podcast from Jody Moore. And that was the first time I'd been introduced to any kind of life coaching or any kind of coaching. And she was talking about how your thoughts create your emotions, which create your feelings, which create your actions, right? And I realized that I was tying my worth to my kids' achievements or my kids, what they were doing. And that wasn't fair because they were their own individuals. And I was an amazing mom. I thought for a long time that I was not, that I wasn't enough. And that because my kids were this way because of something I was doing. I have a disease called hypokalemic periodic paralysis. And for a really long time, it went undiagnosed. And it's a debilitating disease where sometimes I wake up and I'm like paralyzed from the waist down. But at one point, the only way we knew how to combat it was I would have to like sleep until my body would reset. And I wasn't able to do like I would have to go down on my bum like and then crawl around on my knees to get my kids off to school. And in my brain, I was like, you're half a mom. If you weren't half a mom, then your kids would be showing up differently. And I had to learn that that wasn't true, that I was an amazing mom and I still am. And it wasn't anything I was doing, it was the choices that they had. And what I did didn't attach to what they chose to do. It didn't change my love for them. It didn't change my encouragement. It didn't change how I showed up. It was just that they were who they were and it was okay. They had their own path to go. And I just had to detach from that entirely. And that's what really changed, was when I learned to detach myself and be like, okay, if I'm thinking this, then I'm going to feel this. But what if I don't think that? Or what if when I think that, I recognize that and I change that thought? And so that's what I started doing, was just changing that belief pattern and recognizing that I am enough.
Wow. That's so powerful. I don't know that I've ever really pondered on that before. Like, am I trying to prove my worth or, through my kids' achievements? Am I tying my worth to my kids and what I think that should look like and what I think they should, accomplish?
Recognize it until they're doing what you don't want them to do, and they're not living up to what you thought was going to be the case, right? I have boys that deal with anxiety and depression, and so their life shows up very differently than I expected it to be. But yeah, it's easy to tie it to when they're all, like when they're the top of their class and they're doing all these things, like those achievements. It's easy to attach to yourself and be like, yeah, I'm a great mom. But you can be a great mom and have a kid that's failing.
Wow.
And I had to learn that.
That's a really, really great lesson to learn. I think that's kind of how the world views success, right? Are you at the top of your class? Are you hitting these goals? Like, it needs to look this way for every person, when in reality, everybody has their own path. It's so individualized and it can look so differently. And so when we can change our view of what success actually looks like or what progress actually looks like, and open our minds up to there being a different way for that to, that can look differently for every kid, for every person.
Well, and I think so often we tie our worth to our success, to our achievements, to what our kids are doing, to how much money we make. And in reality, none of that to me is success. And I had to learn that the hard way and be like, you know what? So my I have an 18-year-old. He just turned 18 yesterday. And he constantly likes to tell me that I'm not successful enough, right? Because my husband is like the breadwinner. He provides very well for our family. And I've always been the one that just brought in the vacation funds, and like I paid for all the vacations and like all the extras and stuff. And so I was always home and always available. And even though I was working like differently, right? I didn't have like a corporate job that I would go to. And we were having this discussion on success, right? And I said, your idea of success is all monetary. And it's all this worldly view of like the fancy cars, all these things. I could have those things. We could have those things if we chose to, but we choose not to live that way. It's not that we can't, it's that we choose not to. We choose something else is more important to us, right? And to me, success is impact, the impact that you're making, and freedom. It's freedom to live your life in the way that you want to live your life. Yes, money obviously helps that, and money gives you those abilities to be able to create that. But in reality, it's not the money that brings the success. It's having that freedom to choose, that impact that you're making on the world.
Yeah, I love that you have been able to redefine success. And, I talk about prosperity and what the world teaches about what that means, which is financial success. And that's not it. That's not what it actually means.
Coming with us.
Yeah. And so I just love that you have been able to do that and that you are able to start teaching your kids. This is actually what it looks like. And it's based on your values, right? And people's values are different, but aligning what that means based on your values and putting those in alignment. And I know that your faith is very important to you. And so that's, a big part of it as well. And I know that we've talked about kind of co-creating with God. And I would love to know like what that looks like for you. Like, what does that mean to you?
When I made God the CEO of not just my life, but my business, and let go, I'm getting ready to launch this course in the spring called Hot Mess to Holy Success, 90 days to transform and let go and let God and succeed together, because that was the missing piece. You can have all the pieces, but if you're trying to do it all alone, that's where it's impossible. It's just impossible. And I don't believe in the word impossible. I mean, I did a whole speech on impossible means I'm possible. And it's just it's a way in which you look at it. But God is a God of miracles, and he can do a lot more than we can do. And so we give him what we have and let him make up the difference. And we let him lead us. And that's where we can create magic. That's where we can find that work-life harmony, because we're not having to take everything on. Money doesn't have to, you don't have to work really, really hard to have money. He can give it to other ways. And I had to learn that. I had to learn that I didn't have to know the plan. He did. And I just had to trust him. And so that's what I've done, is I've just allowed him to guide me. And he speaks very directly to me. A lot of times he tells me to do things that I don't want to do, so I know it's from him. But that's where I make that connection daily. I think it comes down to really focusing on connecting with God. That's the very first pillar in my course, is where is your connection with God? And are you white knuckling through life that you're trying to control and do everything? Or are you allowing yourself to connect with your higher power and allow him to help lead and take off some of that pressure?
So is that the how for you then, with trusting and just letting go and surrendering? Because we talk so often about that, but I think it's like, well, how do I actually do that though? Like, what does that actually look like? Because I want to trust and surrender and let go, but you're still trying to also like maintain that control and hold on to that a little bit. So what do you specifically do to kind of nurture that and to allow that to happen?
I act without. My husband used to say, like, when we were getting ready to buy this house and all these things were kind of lining up, like God had told me that we were supposed to move and gave me like a 3-month window. And my husband kind of thought I was crazy. And it was step after step after step. And I just kept doing what I felt I was supposed to do, even to the point of not enrolling the kids back in school. And he's like, Jeana, I don't even have a job. Like, I don't have another job lined up. Like, my profession takes time. And I was like, no, this is like, God's going to provide miracles, because this is where he's guiding us. This is what he's telling us to do. I remember one time he said to me, Jeana, you're not just walking on water, you're literally walking on air. And so after we were sitting in our house and everything had worked and all the miracles came to pass, which was an incredibly amazing story in and of itself, I said to him, kind of feels good to walk on air. But really, it's that. It's just acting. And he's shown me enough times that I can trust him. And so it's allowing that trust and knowing that he knows the bigger picture, which allows me to trust him. Even if I don't love what it is he's asking me to do, or it's making me step way out of my comfort zone, or I'm going to require a miracle for this one to happen. We have that understanding, like that, look, if you want me to do this, there's going to have to be some miracles that happen, because I'll act and I'll do. But I just know that I'm not alone. And I think that's the biggest piece, is just learning to let go and to just trust. And trust that he knows the bigger picture. And even if we can't see it, that he does. So it's life experience, as I've allowed him to lead, and I've followed and I've acted. I've seen time and time and time again how it plays out.
That's really beautiful. And how do you hold on? Like, in my study of, trusting God and all of that, I have just stumbled upon the concept of remembering and remembering what God has done for you. And you talked about that, how you have this like history, right? And you know that, and you've come to know that through these experiences that you've had. So what helps you remember that? Because we're humans, so our memories are awful. And I think that when you're going through really hard times, it can be easy to forget and not be able to remember those things. And so then you kind of get out of that trust. So what helps you remember?
I think that daily connection piece is huge, because, and I write it down. I write down my experiences. I didn't for a really long time, but when I was preparing to do my first speech, like, God asked me to share my story on stage. And I was like, wait, this is the part of me I've hidden forever. You want me to like now tell people about like this crazy disease that I have and my struggle with it? And it came down to like me having to do like 3 months of just free writing. And I realized there was so much that I hadn't written down, like so much. But I think it was President Irene was talking about just writing down daily the things. When I was on my mission, I had a miracle journal, and every single day I would find the miracles. And because they're there. Every day there are miracles, and you just have to be looking for them. I focused on gratitude And that changed a ton. And when you focus on gratitude, you're able to see more clearly things, and it helps you even come closer to God. So, I mean, there's still times I need reminders, but I think it's just about building that connection piece with God. And God speaks to everybody differently. Like, he speaks to my best friend very different than he speaks to me. But that doesn't mean he doesn't speak to her, right? And so that's what I think too, is just learning that trust, and learning and going back and reading those journal entries, reading about those moments. That's why if you write them down when you are struggling, you can go back and read on them. I can go back and read on all the different miracles from my mission. I was good then. It was awesome about writing in my journal when I was on my mission in Paraguay. But I kind of got out of the habit of it. And so just that idea of writing it down, focusing on that connection piece, and like, what is God teaching me today? Or what did I hear from God today? And just starting to write those little things down, like every single night. And then those big moments that do happen, you can go back and remember them. But yeah, I think it's just from experience and continually, I'm in it right now. I'm like, okay, this is what you're wanting me to do. I'm going along this path. I still have no idea where it's all going to go, right? As you're wanting me to start sharing my story and speaking on stages and all these kind of things, which I had a fear of public speaking. So that was a whole stepping out of my comfort zone and faith step. But when I stood on that stage and shared my story, he took away that fear that I'd had for so long. And that's what I had to remind myself, even when I was in it. And I was like, okay, are we doing this? There was still that piece of me that was like trying to hold on and control. And I just found that when you let him control, life is so much easier. It's not perfect. You're still going to have hard, but just remembering and like turning to the scriptures, you see it everywhere in the scriptures. A lot of my answers came through the scriptures, through going to the temple. As Latter-day Saints, we believe that we have the temple, like, is called the house of the Lord, and we can go there and have that higher connection to be able to like get deeper answers to questions and things. And yeah, I think it's just making him a priority has been probably my biggest thing.
That's beautiful. And you talked about your mission a few times. What would you say that your mission is today? What would you say your mission is now?
My mission is to be a light and to help women know their worth, and to help them create the life that they want without having to sacrifice for what they want. I believe that women are powerful and we are a force to be reckoned with. And when we allow God to be the CEO of our lives and of our business, magic happens. And so just helping more women see their power and step into their power and recognize not only whose they are, but who they are.
I love that concept of who you are and whose you are. And that is so, so important to be able to go back on. All right. So you talked about what is coming next for you. You are doing this course, right? Launching in the spring. So remind me again what it's called. I love the name of it.
Well, I call myself a hot mess, which is contradictory in some people's views, because it's called Hot Mess to Holy Success. And it's not necessarily about not being a hot mess anymore, because I have ADHD. Like I have a whole neurospicy house. I have a chronic disease that's not going away. There's a whole lot of chaos in my life, right? But it's about owning who you are, connecting with God, stepping into these little micro habits that we build along the way. And so we go through different pillars of the program and add and build to it so that you can find peace in the chaos and own who you are. It's about letting go of perfectionism, letting go of that control, letting God like be the CEO, and just showing up authentically who you are and being okay with it, because it's not going away. Like my chronic disease is here to stay. It's not going away. There will still be days I wake up and I can't move. And that's a reality. That is what it is. But I can choose how my mindset is. I can choose where my gratitude is. I can choose how to create my day regardless.
That's so awesome. And I'm going to link to, like, in the show notes where people can find you and connect with you. I want to end with some fun rapid fire questions, just a few of them, just so we can get to know you better. I want to know, beach or mountains? Which one?
Oh my gosh, this is the hardest question for me to ask because I love the beach, but I also love the mountains. And so I can't choose. Like, for example, when I was at the Oregon coast, we went on a hike that day and then we went to the beach. And that was like a perfect setting for me. I got to be in nature, be in the mountains, have the big green forest like right there. But then I also got to just sit on the beach and just take in like the vastness of both of them connect me so much with God that I couldn't choose.
Both is the perfect answer. If you could instantly master one skill, what would it be?
My gosh, that's a hard one. I would say consistency. Because with my ADHD, that kind of like I can get flighty at times.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That would be a really nice, I think if everybody was able to master that, we'd all do many more incredible things, right? If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of wisdom, what would it be?
Enjoy the journey. Just enjoy it. Like, we so often feel like as high achieving women, we look at the goal and we focus so much on the goal that we forget to enjoy the journey along the way. Or we hike the mountain, we get to the view, we stay there for 5 seconds, take a picture to show what we were on top, but then it's in the journey that all the lessons are learned. It's in the journey that you grow. Enjoy the journey.
Awesome. That's beautiful. If you could only listen to one song for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Gosh, this one's a hard one. Probably Hillary Weeks, He Hears Me.
I love that song. She is so talented. It's a beautiful song.
That song has come to me in moments where I needed it most. And it was just that reminder that He's in the details. He's in the details of the details. And that's a constant reminder that I like to have.
And last one, what is one daily habit that has made a huge impact on your life?
Gratitude. Just being able to wake up and put God before the world. I used to wake up and get on my phone, and now I wake up and I focus on the 3 things I'm grateful for. And I really fell into that. And then I turn to God. And that's been probably the biggest thing, is that gratitude piece of like, you can't control everything, but there's always something to be grateful for.
Gratitude is so powerful. I feel like I'm just beginning to really, really tap into just how powerful it is.
That's one of the pillars in my program too, is focusing on that gratitude piece. It's fun. I'm excited to launch it.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I'm really, really excited. I think that it's going to be so impactful for so many women. And I'm just so excited for what you have coming up and for all of those women that you're going to help and really make that impact in the world that you feel is your mission, to make that impact and to help others. So thank you so much for coming on. This was such a great conversation.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. And I love what you're doing. I love that you're getting out there and you're getting that message out there, that we don't have to prove ourselves. We're already enough.
Yes. We are never, ever asked to prove our worth by God. He doesn't require that of us. So we can stop.
This is where we are.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If today's episode stirred something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Share your takeaways, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe so you can keep uncovering what's possible when you stop proving and start becoming. You don't have to prove your worth. You're here to prove what's possible when you fully own who you were divinely designed to be. Live with faith, lead with boldness, prosper with purpose. Prove it.